All right. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us today in the stream. I'm Alex from Cephable. I'm excited to show you all some of the new stuff that the team's been working on and that is now available for everyone in version 2.7.0, as well as any version beyond that. I'm going to show you a few new things for the Cephable personal users. We're going to talk a lot about Cephable professional and Cephable education. I'm also going to show you our new web portal that is especially useful for organizations that are managing a number of people using Cephable professional or education, as well as how developers can now quickly and easily start free trials of using Cephable's SDKs in order to add all the functionality that we have in our apps into your own experiences, as well as a way to connect to more folks that are using Cephable and ultimately try to make things more accessible, more usable, and more fun. The way I'm going to start this is by showing all the new stuff in the actual apps. We're going to talk a lot about Cephable personal features and the Cephable professional features that sort of overlap. And then I'll show you different ways now that you can easily upgrade even as an individual from Cephable personal to pro or to the education version 2. So as always, please jump into the chat on YouTube. If you're here live with us, if you're checking this out after the fact, please feel free to leave comments with any questions or hop into the Discord. I have the Discord chat open with questions as well. And for people joining us live, I'm in the Discord voice channel for the Idea Hour, so you're welcome to hop in and ask questions there if that's easier or just preferable for you. But I'll make sure I have some time at the end here as well, just to see if anyone's got any questions that are lingering or that need to be asked. And also, I see Julia's in the chat as well, although I know she's traveling, so she can also help with some of these questions if she's available. But excited to take you all through some of this stuff. So let's jump into it. I'm going to switch over here. What you should be seeing now is Cephable on Windows. Same deal on Mac. There's some major features that have happened or that have come out in the last few versions. The biggest ones that I think are worth talking about are all the pre-built control profiles that you can use for different apps. And depending on what type of license you have, if you have a professional license, an EDU license, or if you're using it on a personal level, and using one of the non-commercial licenses, you'll have different profiles that are available. So basically, professional is going to have a whole lot more, hundreds of different apps, basically, that Cephable is pre-trained on. Education is sort of in that same boat. There's a lot of overlap because a lot of people at work use the same things that people use at school. But even if you're not using a paid Cephable license, you can still use a lot of different pre-built profiles for different apps, from like YouTube to Microsoft Word to all the stuff on the operating systems. Like if you're on Windows, your File Explorer, all of your Windows settings, things like that. And if you're on Mac, all the different built-in Mac apps also come with pre-built controls too. So to get started with those, all you have to do is go to add a new profile. And if you're onboarding onto the app for the first time, you'll see this as well. I want to caveat here, what I'm showing is Cephable Professional because I'm logged into an account that has a professional license. So I've got all the different features here. But you'll see that we, instead of having some pre-built templates for like writing and editing that you might have seen before, which I think was the first one you'd see, you start to see some actual apps. So we've got all of the different Adobe tools like Photoshop. We've got all of the different Microsoft suite of tools, the Google suite of tools. So things like Excel is in here. You can use this search bar now to search for those different apps. And although I'm typing with a keyboard, you can, of course, use Cephable's voice controls and dictation to speak into this to search for them. But let's say, for example, I want to go back to something like Photoshop. And I'm going to show you just how much is built into these control profiles because there's a lot, right? And depending on the app, of course, you're going to have more things you can do versus others. And I think Photoshop is actually a great example to show because Photoshop is a really complicated app to use, especially if you have a hard time using a keyboard and mouse. There's a lot of mouse and keyboard shortcuts built in. But if I go look at this, you'll notice that Cephable has now built-in controls for hundreds to thousands of different things. And I'm scrolling quickly on purpose here just to show you how many different things you could do within Photoshop using Cephable voice control. So basically the way that these are trained for Cephable's AI and for you to be able to customize is we have at least a voice control for everything we possibly can. So for every app that we're building out, if there is a way for us to do an action within the app using keyboard or mouse or operating system stuff, we're going to have a control for it, a voice control for it. And then we prioritize adding head and face controls to things that are the most common, like navigation based things. So this might be like switching tabs, switching layers, switching brushes, like whatever the most common things are. But what's really cool about having these really robust controls, and again, this is just Photoshop, there's hundreds of apps now that are pre-built with Cephable controls, is you can still customize them. Let's say, for example, I have the soft light tool, which is a tool in Photoshop that allows you to change the different lighting textures on an image or a texture underneath. With the voice command of soft light, I can switch to that soft light tool, add soft lights, things like that. Let's say I don't want to say soft light and I want to say something else. When I add this profile, I can customize and change all of it. Right now I'm in preview mode. So just like how when you're editing and creating your own profiles for the first time, you have that ultimate level of flexibility, we didn't take that away. So although we have all of these different pre-built controls for things like all of the Adobe tools, all of Google, a bunch of developer tools as well, each of these actually can still be customized. So for example, increasing brush size, there's a shortcut to hit the square brace key, the right square brace key. I've got a voice command for saying increase brush size. I can come in here and edit it, and maybe I don't want to say size, I just want to say increase brush, or just say bigger brush. I can still edit this. I can add a face expression or a head control or a virtual button, although you'll also notice there are virtual buttons added for all the common tasks too. You do not lose that flexibility to change and customize it. This is also true if you have an app that you've customized your different key bindings or your shortcuts in. Some apps do a really good job at making it easy for you to customize those things. And so you can always come in here and swap, because all of our training for these pre-built controls are focused on what is publicly the default. But if you've made a change there, you can also come in and change it here. So for example, if it was like the plus key or something like that, that was the actual increased brush size that I changed it to in Photoshop, I could change it here as well. So really just wanted to show you how we can jump in and still customize any of these profiles. But just to give you an idea for some of the other apps that are here, we have things like Gmail. So if you're using Gmail, you now have pre-built controls available to you to just go add. And it's as simple as going in, searching for the app when you're adding that profile, like I just did for Gmail by typing it here, and then previewing it or adding it. Another really cool thing that's built into just about all of these profiles, if you've tried the experimental feature for automatic profile switching, is that they all have an app association. For example, if I go to Excel, so I again typed Excel here, and I can go preview the Microsoft Excel profile. If I go into advanced options and associated programs, you'll see that there's already an association for Microsoft Excel, which is really cool because it means that as I'm adding different profiles for the different apps that I use, if you have automatic profile switching enabled like I do, next time I open Excel, it's up and running. What we're trying to do is get closer to allowing anyone to just have voice commands at least for anything they want to do in their computer, regardless of what app you're in. So if you just are using Excel every day at work or every day at home and you need to use voice commands for it, or if it's just faster and easier to say what you want the app to do instead of having to go memorize keyboard shortcuts or like navigate through menus, then you can just jump in, add the profile, and you're off and running. Just to re-show, because I know I've shown up in the past where you can turn on that automatic profile switching, because currently it's experimental, although very soon it won't be. If you've already turned it on, you'll see the current status here right on the home page, and you can change it. So for example, I have it temporarily off because I'm going to jump around and show you a whole bunch of stuff. But you can enable it for the first time by going to your device and then going here where you'll see this automatic profile switching, and you can turn it on from there. And I also just realized I named this my Mac instead of my PC. So I'm going to go ahead and change that while I'm here. So once you have it enabled, your automatic profile switching is off and running. And then you're good to go. Question in chat from Mara. How does something like Gmail work if you're using it with Google Chrome, but also going to other websites as far as automatic profile switching goes? Great question. So this is something that's probably going to change, and it's one of the reasons why automatic profile switching is still a little bit experimental. So what will happen right now is if you had, I believe you mentioned Chrome, there's also pre-built profiles for Chrome. So if you go to Chrome and you have this profile, when you open Chrome, Google Cephable will switch to this Google Chrome profile. So all of your shortcuts for browser stuff. What happens right now is automatic profile switching is not able to detect yet a website-based app. So it's basing it specifically off of the actual desktop app. So for example, if I go into Gmail and I go to associated programs, I have a Gmail desktop client that it'll switch to, but if I'm in Gmail, the website within Chrome, it'll actually stick to the Chrome one for now. But that is something we're actively working on changing so that you can also associate certain websites with it. The main thing that we have to figure out is how do we detect what website you're on, do that all offline, by the way, because none of that data should ever leave your computer. And then accurately switch it and also give you a mix of profiles. So how do you get Gmail plus Chrome shortcuts in that case? So that's the stuff we're working on. Main reason why this stuff is still experimental in this version, because we're just refining to make sure that by the end of all of that being set up, you ideally should not have to go and manage profiles. Our goal is basically to figure out what apps you have installed, and as you jump around to different apps, see if we already have existing controls for it and just add it for you behind the scenes so that you, in theory, don't have to think about Cephable and you're just using the voice commands and the camera controls and buttons or whatever other inputs you want to tell it what to do. Also, hey, Rudy, you didn't miss much. We just got started. I was showing all of the different pre-built controls that we have for different apps now. And in Cephable professional versions and education versions, there's even more. One other thing I want to add is in your device controls or your global controls, it's really your global controls, you can switch profiles by just saying switch to. So if I go into my global controls here, there's this change profile by name, and I also think I see Cordelia answering that right there too. So you can say change profile Gmail or switch profile Gmail or switch profile to Gmail. Cephable then does a search within your profiles to find one that matches and then switch to it. So you can always do that in the background as well. So if automatic profile switching, for example, isn't working yet for browser-based things like different websites, you can still just with your voice tell it to switch without having to go back to the app, go to the drop down, find it, especially if you have more and more profiles built out. So definitely an important thing to know. A couple other things that are new in this version are some experimental new versions of head mouse controls. So in your camera settings, at the very bottom, I'm going to scroll a bit faster to get through all my different sensitivity settings. You'll see this head movement for mouse controls. Yours might look a little bit different than mine because I have this experimental feature enabled, which allows me to add different types of mouse controls. Before I go into the details of each of these, let me go show you where to turn that on, because we have the ability to opt into different experimental features before they're ready. And you can do that right from your account settings. So if you go to your account settings from the home page and scroll down to user preferences, you'll start to see as we add more features that we want to do experimentally first, the ability to turn it on. So you can see I have this experimental head mouse modes and settings on. Definitely recommend trying it out because the team has put in some awesome features that allow you to really customize how head mouse works, including across multiple monitors, different speeds and acceleration, how you like it to map to your head movement. So if you want it to be static so that as you're tilting or turning, it's going at a consistent speed, or it's accelerating versus moving relative to your head, there's a lot you can do with it. So I recommend turning on this feature, which then again, if I go back to my camera settings and scroll down here, you'll see these different modes. So steady glide is basically what the current default head mouse movement is, but there's some new settings in here too. So you can choose how fast your mouse moves by default. So I have like an ancillary setting here of like 30 pixels per frame. That means that it's gonna be a little bit faster versus if you want really slow, really refined mouse controls, you can turn this down. If you've got a super high resolution monitor or a lot of monitors and you're trying to just use head mouse to like have it jump very quickly, you can turn it up to 100 pixels per frame and it's gonna move very fast. And just like before, you can choose whether you want to have it using head tilting. So with head tilting, that's tilting my head left and right if you're looking at my head in the camera. Turning is turning my head left and right. It's more like I'm looking towards the edges of my monitor with my nose. And leaning is a little bit more niche, but that's where I actually can lean my body or just shift the position of my head in the camera to go left, right, up, and down. So you can still pick that version. We also have this new option for linear mouse movement that you can turn on. This linear mouse movement, it says it here, but I'll basically read it out. Just says whether it should only move left and right at one time. So this could mean that I don't want it to go diagonal. Some people have preferences based off of how they're able to move their head. if they want it to go one direction at a time. So I'm going left and then I stop, and then I go up and then I stop, versus I'm going to go up and left by sort of tilting my head back. That's what this setting is for. So that's just in steady glide. Then we've got, which is my favorite word, the speed boost mode. So very much like steady glide, you have your starting speed now for what your mouse speed is. So maybe you want to start with something slower, but then basically your mouse is going to accelerate the longer you're in that position. That means that if I have my head tilting right to move my mouse to the right like this, it'll go faster and faster as I'm still holding that position. So because I have it going a little bit slow now at the beginning, this slow, speed, slow, and then it goes fast, 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 and then speeds up. So really useful for doing larger movements and kind of a balance between these different versions. And you can, again, you can really fine tune these specific speeds and how quick you want it to start to increase. So for example, the acceleration response delay means how long after I've started to move right do I want it to actually start to accelerate. That way I've got like a little bit of steadiness for like up to a couple seconds here. So like 2 seconds of the same, and then it starts to accelerate. A lot of cool stuff you can play with. And then the third mode we have is dynamic glide, which allows you to basically increase the speed based off how far you move your head, meaning that it should accelerate the further you tilt or turn. So instead of just being like, okay, I've tilted enough for it to start going right, this is going to basically maintain the same speed as long as I'm here. But if I tilt my head even further, it will go faster. So it glides based off of the speed at which you actually are sort of tilting or turning, which is also really cool. So all of these are available in 2.7. I'm not going to save those changes. A couple other things is that we have more languages added. So for both the voice commands and for the actual interface of the app, you can change the language at any point from the footer. So on any of the pages, you scroll all the way down, you'll see this little language section down here. And you can change the display language and your voice control language. So for example, we have English, Spanish, French, Italian, and German available. Now, what's really cool about this is that it's not just choosing what language your voice and speech recognition is going to run in. It actually will change the language of the controls that you're using in your profiles. Because when I was showing you, again, those hundreds of different apps that we have, we also have every single one of those apps that it's pre-trained on translated into every language that we support. So because I'm in French just for my voice controls, although my interface is still in English, you'll notice that if I go into preview here, all of my voice commands are in French because that's my chosen language here. You can choose to match those languages. So again, if I scroll all the way to the bottom, I can change this at any point. I'll switch my display language to also be French. All of these get translated as well. But now I have my French voice commands and my French display. And I can basically search and find different profiles in French too. But the entire app is now in that language. So we have Spanish, obviously English, because that's what we primarily speak and use in the Cephable team. We have English, Spanish, French, and now Italian and German are two brand new ones that we added in 2.7.0 as well. Excuse me. So that's all the stuff that is available for Cephable Personal, Cephable Professional, and Cephable Education in the desktop apps. Now, there's a couple other new things that I want to share that are outside of the free personal use. These are the Cephable Professional and EDU features, as well as features for developers. And the main one I want to show you is our new web portal. So with our web portal, you can go to portal.cephable.com. If you have an EDU license or a Cephable Professional license, you'll be able to sign in here. If you create a new account here and you don't have one of those, there's not really much you can do, but you'll be able to actually easily start a free trial from there too. So for example, if I go create a new account, ignoring my old enabled play one, and I have like Alex plus, let's do like pro demos at cephable.com. Oh, whoops, that should be my email. Just a little alias. I'm going to enter a password here, agree to the terms, and go sign up. This will take me back to the portal. So I need to verify my email, which I'll go do on the side on this other device here real quick. So I've got my welcome to Cephable, verify my email. I'm tapping that on my other device. And then if I refresh here, Now I can see, okay, I don't have any associated organizations. I don't have a professional or education or developer license. But if I have a license key, whether I've purchased it, someone at Cephable's given it to me as part of a promotion or something like that, you can activate license keys from here. You can also activate them from the desktop app too. But I can also start a free trial. So I click start a free trial. I enter my name. I'm Alex Dunn. Enter that same email address. I'm going to cover my phone number so I don't dox myself real quick, because I don't want to enter a fake one. And I'm going to just continue to the next step. Cool. Let me jump back and show you what's up. So I finished filling out the form. It's now asking me to sign into my account here, so I'm going to do that. And it takes me to my free trial confirmation. But now that I have my free trial on that account, if I go back to the portal, I can see my organization here. I can invite members. I can see the details about my trial. So I've got 30 days left of Cephable Professional. I can download the Cephable apps and sign in with the same account, and then I'll have all of those profiles available too. I can view and invite members to it. So you have up to 5 people, including yourself, that you can add. And then when I'm ready to upgrade, whether I've finished my trial and I'm ready to actually start paying for one of those licenses, or I've got permission to purchase it now, I can go ahead and click upgrade, and it'll load me to a page where I can go finish my purchase. So I can buy a Cephable Professional license, or if I have a Cephable Education trial, I can buy a Cephable Education license, and then you're off and running. On top of all of these resources for Cephable Professional and Cephable Education in the dashboard, we also now have tools for developers. So what I can do as a developer is start a free trial, which I, again, can do from the portal. But I'm going to just jump over to the fill it out like I'm a new person. I'm going to do Alex plus developer demo at cephable.com. Sorry, I'm once again going to hide my info here, enter my phone number. Going to start a demo. Next. I need to make my account now. And we once again are back at I need to verify my email, which again, I'm going to do on another device. And I hit verify and start. And if I come back to the portal, I can log in with that account that I just made. Although if you did it on the same device that you actually go verify your email, it'll take you right here. So now I have my organization that should have developer access, which means that instead of having that upgrade button here for projects, which will ask you to start a free trial, I can actually manage projects now. Projects are an association of OAuth credentials and SDKs and device types, so that me as a developer, I can create an app and add Cephable resources to it. On top of doing that and creating these different projects, where I can say my sample app name is like Cephable Demo Game or something like that, I get instructions on how to go get the different SDKs. So if I'm building a Windows app, a web app, or something else, I can jump in and get started there. I can create my OAuth credentials, which I'm going to skip for now. I can define the scopes of a Cephable user account that I need, and I can basically say what types of Cephable devices are allowed to use it. There's also this constant set of developer resources that you can get to on the bottom left. So you can see the different SDKs again. You can jump into different samples, such as our web SDK samples, which allow you to test out like the voice service and camera service, all of these amazing tools that are now here for developers to try. If you're building a game in Unity, you can jump into our sample of how to use the APIs and SDKs there and view the underlying Cephable APIs for integration. Before we had all these features, developers worked very directly with us on basically using our SDKs, licensing them in a custom way, and then basically figuring out what they need, what they're trying to build, and getting support. And so want to say a thank you to all the early developers that we've been working with that are exploring integrating Cephable controls into their own apps. And now we've got some more resources that are available to make it easy for any developer to start a trial and jump into playing around with integrating Cephable controls natively. So that was a lot that we just went over in 24 minutes. To recap some of it, over in the Cephable desktop app and mobile apps, we have pre-built profiles for hundreds of different applications. If there's an application that you're trying to use Cephable controls with that we do not have a pre-built set of controls for, reach out to us in Discord, in the feature request form, whatever means works best for you, because that'll make it easier for us to prioritize what apps we want to pre-train the AI on next. So all of those are pre-built. They're translated and available in every single language that we support, which now includes Spanish, French, obviously English, Italian, and German. We have new experimental head mouse features. We have automatic profile switching enabled, so as you're adding new profiles for different apps, you're off and running. And as you can probably tell, we're getting closer and closer to a new way to interact with Cephable, which is basically where you don't have to think about the Cephable app, and we make it easier to just onboard into what apps you're using, what types of inputs you want to use, set it up with automatic profile switching with your different set of controls, and then just run the voice controls and also the camera controls if you want, and then let Cephable sit in the background. We're also working on tons of new features for the Cephable Professional and for Cephable Education, including new on-device AI capabilities for generating things that you want to on the fly in easier ways by telling Cephable's AI to do stuff for you, versus having to manage everything through a profile or having to dictate everything using Cephable voice. We're working on new features in the education space for communication tools, for student management, and for supporting our districts and schools that are using Cephable every day. And then we're always adding new features that span across everything for personal users, professional users, education, and developers. So be sure to stay tuned and follow us on all our socials. Join us in the Discord where we share all these things and also gather feedback. And with that, I'll open it up to questions and finally take a look at chat, which I'm seeing grow quite significantly, although I see Julia answering some stuff. But yeah, happy to answer questions here in the chat, or if anyone wants to jump in the Discord, I'm in the voice channel. If it's easier to join there, I'll just pull that over here real quick to see. And I think I do see someone in here in the voice channel with me. So let me double check my DMs to make sure. Okay. All right, let me catch up on some of the questions here. Head mouse is great. Does the camera make a difference as for accuracy of the movement, i.e. aftermarket high resolution versus OEM camera and laptop? For the accuracy of the cameras, it doesn't really make a difference. What can make a difference is the frame rate it can output. But every laptop, like OEM'd webcam, outputs enough to use. So the same thing is true for any head controls with the camera. Is basically if you can see yourself in the camera preview, then Cephable can see you, and it should be acting the same way. Does Cephable have any head tracking like a via cam, meaning that the mouse follows your head? Yeah, that's exactly what the head mouse features are for. We just have a ton of new settings so you can manage exactly how you want it to follow your head. So the closest one to like a via cam or smile mouse is probably going to be this dynamic glide. But if you have steady glide or speed boost, just customize it to whatever means you want. And what we're trying to figure out and why it's still a little bit experimental is what the best defaults are. So if you're trying out the new head mouse controls, please share with us, because we don't go look at your actual personal data at all. It's all tied to your account and on your device. Tell us what settings are working for you. Tell us in Discord, tell us by whatever means you can, because we're trying to figure out what the right types of defaults are so that it helps the most people in getting started. Let's see. Your number is still 911. Yeah, good one. That would be funny to enter during the form. Oh yeah, and I also see Shristi added more details there. So what's the overall benefits of professional license versus the free one? Yeah, I guess I did answer that a little bit. The main thing is more profiles, more controls for more apps. Mostly the apps that you're going to be using if you're using it for work. Also, it allows a commercial license. So remember, the Cephable personal version doesn't allow for using it commercially. So you shouldn't be using it at work. You should be using the professional version. But even outside of that, we're building more and more features for professional and the education version first that aren't necessarily going to be available in the personal one. The AI generative stuff is not going to be in the Cephable personal version. You are going to need a professional license. As well as some new dictation models, so like really high accuracy, auto punctuation, and everything else that you'd expect from just telling your computer what you want it to write, and it figures out how to write it for you. That's going to be coming to the professional and education versions first. So that and more. Um, Doug asks, can words be added to the vocabulary? Also, will the name of my company be capitalized or will people's names be capitalized? Great question, Doug. In the personal version, and see, you redacted it or retracted it. So too late. I'm answering it anyway. In the dictation, in the personal version right now, we do have some punctuation stuff built in, but you do have to say what you want the punctuation to be. So I would say like, hi, I'm Alex, period. How's everyone doing today? Question mark. For adding words to the vocabulary, the approach we're taking is actually a little bit different, which is that with the new dictation models that are coming to professional and education, you won't have to do that. It's going to figure it out from context and handle auto punctuation and everything else. So you shouldn't have to go in and add custom vocab. We know other apps do it that way and that it's kind of been that way for a long time. It's actually a little bit of an issue with how people have approached speech recognition in the past. And so we're trying to create solutions where you don't have to go in and add a whole bunch of custom stuff, that Cephable can kind of figure it out. That being said, there may always be scenarios for that, and we're constantly exploring ways to be able to add custom vocab, especially for voice controls. The way that we're currently exploring it is that you won't have to do it during like dictation or ahead of time. You would just add it into your profile the same way you would any voice control, and then if it's there, we go figure out how we actually handle that type of vocab. So we're trying to make it easier for you to just have voice controls at work without having to go do a whole bunch of manual stuff to make it work. So that's a big part of the process. Are we using whispering? We are in some cases. Yeah, we do have some new whisper-based speech recognition tools. That is the one of the foundation models that we use for the new dictation models that are coming out. We have a few other things on top of that that are a little proprietary and part of like our patent portfolio, but like the primary underlying stuff is transformer-based speech recognition like Whisper, as well as some graph neural net-based speech recognition on top. Basically, we get the best of both worlds. So that's generally our approach to it. Mayor, people with weird spellings of names like me. Well, that's the thing is like we should be able to figure out how you spell your name because you've got it in so many other places. So that's the type of stuff that we're working on making easier and automatic. So you don't have to like go into Cephable and be like, the way I spell Meredith or Mare is this, and it needs to figure that out from now on. For example, one of the biggest issues we run into is Cephable. Cephable is a made-up word. It's not a real word that's in typical vocab anywhere. And so when we're doing speech recognition, we have to make sure that it's able to figure out how to spell Cephable on the fly. So stuff like that is definitely where we're going. And yeah, the Whisper stuff is definitely a game changer. Just this new level of automated speech in a writing, like long form writing fashion is really cool. That plus the ability to just tell it to write stuff for you, and you don't need to write and dictate every word. You just tell it generally what you're trying to write, and it can figure out how to generate it for you too. All on device is the big thing that we do with our AI. We're not trying to understand all of your context and share it with a cloud and read it and have our team be able to use it for retraining other stuff. The AI functionality and speech recognition functionality we're working on is all on your device. And so a lot of the work that we do is optimizing everything to be able to run on a laptop or on a phone, which is why some things take a little bit for us to build because there's a lot of optimizing it. Yeah, much better than Dragon. We already get that quite a bit, even with the personal version of Cephable that's free. So I think the professional version and the education version with the new speech, it's going to be killer. So I'm excited to share that with you all when it comes out in the coming weeks, basically, is what we're currently looking at. So okay, that's going to do it for me. We're a little bit over time. Thank you all so much for joining who joined live. If you're watching this after the fact, again, please jump into the comments. Join us in our Discord because that's where our team is. It's where I am all the time. It's where we're sharing ideas and doing all sorts of cool things together. We have some fun events coming up over the next few months. We got a bunch of cool new features coming out on top of everything you saw today. And if you're a developer watching this, go start a trial. Go start building stuff with Cephable too, because we want to see you work with us to make every app and every game more accessible and more inclusive as well. So thanks so much, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you next time.